Fabricamos talento. Fabricamos innovación. Y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía. Y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro.
Welcome to D-Factory, the factory that develops talent, technology, innovation, and of course in the heart of Barcelona. After all, D-Factory is consolidating Barcelona as a European capital of development for Industry 4.0, for digitalization, for transformation, creating 1,500 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect jobs in the city, close to the metro, the harbour and the airport. And promoted by the Consorcio de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.
Now it's the time of changes. Now is the time to move on. This is the time for solutions. Feel the motion. BNEW is born. BNEW, none of you. No one connected to you. BNEW, none of you. BNEW will do it for you. This is the time for solutions. BNEW is for you.
Buenos días y bienvenidos un día más a esta tercera edición del BNEW Barcelona New Economy Week. Seguimos impulsando la nueva economía delante de un cambio de paradigma económico, porque realmente estamos en un proceso de transición que veremos hacia dónde nos lleva. Todo ello lo hacemos desde este D-Factory, este ecosistema empresarial 4.0 y uno de los más importantes del sur de Europa. En este D-Factory, de la mano del Consorci de la Zona Franca de Barcelona, que promueve una Barcelona New Economy Week que quiere que sea transversal y multisectorial. Y así lo vemos repartidos a lo largo de los 7 canales de información non-stop que podéis encontrar también en formato digital y si no presencial y nos venís a visitar aquí en Barcelona. Bien, nosotros estamos en el canal Invest y hoy seguimos poniendo la lupa dónde están pues, las nuevas oportunidades de negocio a nivel de inversión, donde las empresas pueden poner sus esfuerzos para seguir creciendo. Nosotros desde este Invest hoy conectaremos ahora mismo en directo con Ucrania, porque sí, Ucrania también tendrá un alto futuro potencial cuando termine esta guerra. ¿En qué podremos invertir en Ucrania, pero también en el resto de Europa? Porque esta guerra nos afecta a todo el continente. De hecho, por ello siempre se ha dicho tradicionalmente que Ucrania es el gran granero de Europa y de todo el mundo. Bien, este primer panel, que nos llevará 1 hora aproximadamente, se llama BRECOVERY. Volvamos a contar con Courtney Finger, que es actualmente editor en jefe de Investment Monitor, una publicación de las más importantes a nivel internacional y que también pertenece a la Global Data PLC, experta reconocida internacionalmente en inversiones a lo largo de más de 2 décadas. Courtney ahora os presentará los ponentes, porque tenemos ponentes desde aquí, de Barcelona, también, como hemos dicho antes, desde Ucrania, y veremos por qué esta sesión es muy interesante. Courtney, you are American, but you come from a Ukrainian family. Surely you empathize and know the crash reality that this country is suffering at the moment, no?
Yes, I have to say I'm not Ukrainian. I'm an adopted Ukrainian, of which I'm very proud.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you to the organizers for an opportunity to lead this panel. Now, this panel is not explicitly about free zones, but I would argue this is the most essential panel in the BENVEST program, and that is because, of course, the implications and ramifications of the war in Ukraine are manifold and impact global security, geopolitics, energy security, and, of course, the global economy. Now, all of that aside, of course, we watch in horror of this human suffering and the great toll and the price that Ukraine is paying for this illegal invasion of the country. But quite apart from the human toll, there is a very large economic toll and the destruction that's being wrought on Ukraine, a major, large, and important European country. So we're going to talk today about a bit of that cost, the needs of reconstruction, how to do it, and of course the role that foreign investors can play in a post-war reconstruction exercise. But not only that, there is also a role that the international business community investors could play right now, not just waiting to see how things play out. So we're going to try to talk a bit about what those options and even obligations are, and of course the challenges in doing that. And I'm really delighted with the panel that we've assembled. Now, of course, everyone in Ukraine or working with Ukraine is very busy, I dare say distracted at this moment with really important things that you're grappling with. So we're really pleased that the four of you have taken time to talk through this topic with us. Now, joined here in person, I have next to me Anna Derevyanko, Executive Director of the European Business Association. This is a large association representing business interests in Ukraine. Welcome to Barcelona.
Thank you.
We also have Tatiana Yakovenko, who's a Director and Head of Legal for Contact Ukraine. Her company works to help promote investment in Ukraine and also to work with investors to assist their entry into the market. Welcome to you. Now, joining us remotely for very understandable reasons, we have two gentlemen. Daniel Bilak is Senior Counsel and Chairman of the Ukraine Office Management Committee of law firm Kinstellar. Daniel's also been serving in the territorial defense to help defend his homeland. And we have with us Yevgeny Shatkotko. Sorry if I've mangled your name in any way. He's the Deputy Executive Director of Ukraine Invest, which is the National Investment Promotion Agency of Ukraine, which of course is very busy not only trying to bring in that much needed investment to support the economy at this time with an eye to reconstruction, but also helping assist those investors that are already in the country. So very busy jobs for all of you. Thank you for joining us. Now, I want to start first with perhaps the big picture and get a sense of the mood of the business community right now. Anna, tell us a little bit about how is the Ukrainian business community and also any foreign companies there coping with the current crisis, and what's the general sentiment?
First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to BNEW for actually placing Ukraine as one of the options to discuss in terms of investment opportunities. And thank you very much for the invite actually to talk about this. Well, thinking about the question of how the business community feels, which is pretty often asked to me, I try to recollect Kharkiv, business in Kharkiv, which is bombarded every day, or Dnipro, or Odessa, and also Lviv or Kiev, which are relatively safe. And all of them, they feel absolutely different. But what unites them is that the business of Ukraine is really resilient and committed to work in the country. European Business Association works with 1,000 member companies and represents over 5,000 private entrepreneurs. We collectively create over 2 million of jobs in the country and pay billions of hryvnias to the local budget. And obviously, we as European Business Association have to follow how the business community feels on the daily basis. And our recent polls show that big businesses have restored fully their operations, another half partially. We see that 12% of the business community in the big circle, they allocated their production within the country, and only 3% moved abroad. When it comes to the small business community, small companies, small enterprises, they feel much worse because 1/3 have not yet restored their operations fully. And they start to cut their staff more often, more frequently compared to big companies. Nevertheless, having said so, I can tell you that for the future, both big and small companies feel that they will meet growth for the next year, which is also good. And they would like actually to keep their talent in place because majority of the companies, they are either cutting their staff, but they do not actually reduce salaries of people because they do understand that the purchasing power of the population is really very important. When it comes to investments, our index of investment attractiveness, which really calculates European business associations since 2008, shows the lowest since 2013. But nevertheless, 91% of our member companies plan to work actually next year in the country, and half of them, even during the wartime, plan to invest, which is also a good thing. And the areas for investment would be agriculture, food production, FMCG, IT, telecom, energy, construction, real estate, logistics. So all in all, we see that actually investments are low, but nevertheless they are coming. We see already a number of investors who are coming with, hundreds of millions of dollars into logistics area, into technological products production, real estate, etc. So because the entry price currently is very low compared to what it could be when the war is going to be over. So my messages to you are as following. First, the business community is resilient. It continues to work in Ukraine. It is not running away. It is going to commit itself until the war is over, and it waits until recovery is going to take place. Second, it's necessary to invest to Ukraine already now. It's not necessary to wait. And if you're a member of the governments, then obviously think about launching political risk insurance or war risk insurance. It's very important to restore investments to Ukraine to help the private business feel more comfortable to making contributions to the country. If you are already in Ukraine, also I would like to invite you to work with European Business Association because we are there to help you to make your business more comfortable. And if you are not yet in Ukraine, also join Global Business for Ukraine organization. This is an extraterritorial organization which has been formed by European Business Association. And the goal is to mobilize global business around Ukraine by means of telling them what's going on in the country and supplying them decent information. So all two organizations, both EBA and GB4U, are open for cooperation.
Thank you. So these are some good, actually practical ways that the business community can take advantage of investment opportunities in Ukraine, but also support the country. I'll ask you more, I think, about your association and also the topic of political risk insurance, which is really essential. We're going to return to in this discussion because it's quite a thorny but essential topic. But I want to turn to Yevgeny right now and ask, based on what Anna has been seeing, does this match the experience of Ukraine Invest? What are you hearing from foreign investors, and how is your agency adapting to the crisis and supporting investors at this critical time?
Well, thank you very much for the question, and I want to thank the organizers of this event for the opportunity to be speaking here today. Well, to start with, I would just say that Ukraine Invest is a very typical structure. We are a government investment promotion agency, and our main goal is to attract investments into Ukraine and to support investors which are already present in Ukraine in meeting their goals, in resolving their problems, and finding ways to expand. As we look back at the February 2022, those times were very heartbreaking and Ukraine Invest set up a goal for itself to be proven to the partners, to investors which are operating in Ukraine, that there is a reliable partner which will be looking after their problems, which will be reaching out to them to support them in resolving problems which might arise in case the invasion outbreaks. We did make a survey reaching out to the investors we are working with to find out what are their expectations and how do they prepare in case the invasion actually takes place, how they change their operations, how they reconsider or not their midterm plans, how they're actually adapting to the events which might unfold. Basically, in doing so, we made sure that we collect all the concerns and all the potential problems that investors may face, and we start looking after them right away. As the events, of course, unfolded on 21st February 2022, our organization continued operating, of course, in a remote setting, but normally. We were reaching out to investors to find out what are the actual things that they happen to face, to experience with regard to the unfolding invasion. Well, we did concentrate our efforts, of course, not on attracting new investors, as the events were not supposed to do so, but to providing support in troubleshooting, in finding ways to relocate businesses to safer regions, from regions which suffered most from the invasion. We were looking at how Ukraine Invest may be proposing policy initiatives to, ease the immediate effect of the conditions that Ukraine happened to be facing. At this point, I may say that, reflecting on what Anna said, Ukraine Invest is seeing a better sense of how investors might be looking forward and considering Ukraine as a potential investment destination. At this point, it is necessary to mention that one of the good footprints of what the experience is may be the fact that just before the invasion, Ukraine Invest provided support to 25 plus investment projects in a wide range of sectors. Overall portfolio coming up to $2.2 billion US. And nowadays, as we continue working with investors directly, we continue to reach out to them. We managed to attract 7 new investment projects, while those 25 plus are currently put on a pause as investors do keep track at how the situation unfolds and what will be the potential for them to actually get back to realizing these projects. Just last week, Ukraine Invest with partners, and I convey my thankfulness to Anna and to you, Courtney, for being there, conducted an international investment fair to showcase numerous investment projects which are currently being implemented or open to investment in Ukraine. These projects showcase the potential of agriculture, the logistics, and other sectors to which investors are looking at.
Oh, we've lost Yevgeny for just a moment. Hopefully he will come back on stream. If not, for a moment, we'll turn to Tatiana.
But by the way, it was a very good event, actually.
It was an excellent event. It was an
he was there
event.
as well.
And he's back. And he's back. Please do carry on.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what I actually wanted to say, that this event was something that Ukraine Invest could do to actually prove to international investment community. And we had over 1,500 participants from all across the world, and to Ukrainian potential investors that there are investment projects which are looking to be implemented with a view to participation in rebuilding Ukraine.
Thank you very much, and yes, congratulations on the success of that event. Investment Monitor was very pleased to support it, and it was a very good showcasing of the investment opportunities that Ukraine has to offer right now, and the opportunities that investors have to get involved now, and also to support the future reconstruction. But of course, there are challenges like in any place, and in particular now there are some very unique challenges. Tatiana, you do a lot of hand-holding with individuals, but also companies that might want to enter Ukraine as a market. What are you hearing from your clients right now?
Well, first of all, of course, our clients were very shocked by all this situation, and most of them didn't believe the war to happen. And at the beginning, it was very important to provide them with information and support so that they understand how to work further. Of course, with implementation of martial law, investment in Ukraine became more scary in terms of regulations and bans on return of foreign investment for now, and this scares many people and forces them to put on hold some of their projects, also a general situation in the country. But I still think that many of my clients are very interested to invest. Some maintain their projects, and I see increased interest to Ukrainian human capital, which I find as a very attractive these days, especially due to decrease of local currency and many people who lost their jobs, they are happy to work. And you can find really talented people. So I see that now there are more and more foreign companies who are looking for Ukrainian capital. Many people are interested in real estate investment and even in constructions, despite of current situation because of a decrease in price. And many projects, I think, will be resumed after the war is finished. I want to also say that all of my clients are big fans of Ukraine, and there are a lot of people who came to Ukraine who love this country, and I think for them it became a second home. Our company is doing many services. Actually, it's very in high demand. Ukrainian permanent residency through investment, and many of my clients who decided to do business in Ukraine were also interested in this. Only from Japan, we have more than 30 clients who applied for permanent residence via investment, and even they continue to do so these days. And for these clients, they also help a lot Ukraine. They volunteer, they donate money, and I want to thank you, thank all of them for that. And one of my clients also, it's a company from Japan who did construction project in Kiev. Currently, they are building homes, temporary homes for Ukrainian refugees in Western Ukraine, and they successfully already implemented part of this project, and I'm very proud that they are doing it today. And they plan to expand their construction business in future. Also, of course, our IT industry is developing despite of all, and favorable taxation which was implemented by Ukrainian government to private entrepreneurs, as well as reform in this area which happened just before the war. Dia City is also very interesting for foreign investors, and they keep hiring Ukrainian people. I think there are a lot of projects which will come in future, and I find that these areas are still developing despite of the situation. In the future, I think the businesses which will be very attractive for foreign investors, of course, it will be construction. We will need a lot of that. Unfortunately, now there are a lot of distractions in many cities of Ukraine, and foreign development companies will be very welcome in Ukraine. Also, agricultural business and food business. I think also Ukraine has a lot to offer in terms of tourism, and even medical tourism I find is a very interesting area to develop in Ukraine. So we are waiting for investors, and the general advice, of course, be well informed, estimate your risks, learn regulations which are in place in the country, and we will be able to help you if you need with pleasure.
Thank you. It is interesting and a bit inspiring to see the foreign companies and how they have sort of stuck in and help out with the humanitarian crisis. And it's maybe a moment for investors to show loyalty to Ukraine and vice versa, and maybe solidify the partnerships for the future. Now, Tatiana spoke about some of the operating environment to business. This is something that Daniel knows very well as a lawyer working in Ukraine, but also as a former head of Ukraine Invest. You're very familiar with, I guess, the opportunities that can be presented for Ukraine, but also some of the difficulties in investment attraction. Daniel, can you speak a bit about that? How do you see the operating environment for business pre-war and at this current moment in time, and what is needed to really unlock the full FDI potential of Ukraine?
Thanks very much, Courtney, and then thanks for having me and inviting me to participate. I think that we are at a real watershed, and I think their previous speakers have alluded to this. When I was at Ukraine Invest, one of my biggest frustrations was the fact that we had this great narrative and this great story to tell, and yet at the same time, we were up against, on the one hand, the EU was trying to facilitate our integration through the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement, which went a long way to providing regulatory convergence and regulatory compliance. And yet at the same time, when we were trying to attract businesses to invest in Ukraine, especially from the EU or from abroad, I remember dealing with South African and Japanese companies, we ran up against this wall of state aid that the EU would be providing to neighboring countries. And so, this, now that we're a candidate member companies, hopefully we'll get to the trough as well, and get some of those adhesion and accession funding to sort of level the playing field. Anna spoke about export guarantees and the political risk insurance. This is crucial. I mean, we can talk about the great investment environment and the narrative for Ukraine, but under the circumstances, unless there is a substantial fund, and I can see this sort of being put together by the EU and the United States and Japan and some of the bigger donor countries, to really try to take that issue off the table and make Ukraine an investment environment that, unlike the same as other investment environments in the EU. We have an attractive narrative. We've already got, certainly for the period of the war, the EU has taken off most, if not many, if not most of the tariffs on goods exported from Ukraine. As I said, the degree to which Ukraine went to a regulatory convergence and compliance over 6 years that we had the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement in place was incredible, and it was a story that was really hard to tell. I mean, because we're already part of the EU supply chain, certainly in automobile parts, certainly in a lot of manufactured goods. In tech, we are second to none, and in fact, coming out of this conflict, we are going to be one of the premier tech hubs in Europe. Half of our, in fact, more than half, I think most of our IT industry is all in on this war. We have geeks and gadget men and women and gamers on the front lines flying drones and looking in real time as to what works and what doesn't work, feeding this information back to the IT industry. We've had one of my friends told me that we've gone through 3 generations of development in some of these technologies that would have taken years to do, and we've done it in the space of 7 months. So coming out of this war, we're going to have some very, very interesting civilian applications of a lot of these things. One of the other things that I've been working on at Kinsteller and with our other offices in Central and Eastern Europe has been on the infrastructure side. And I think this is actually as part of the Tatiana referred to the construction and the development in the country, but that is actually part and parcel of a much larger infrastructure initiative. And this is what I was really promoting when I was head of Ukraine Invest, because this will become the public sector driver for private investment. I was working on a very large concession road project just before the war that would connect Rivne to, it was about 280 kilometers, connecting Rivne to Krakowec on the Polish border. And that project is apparently going to go forward because Prime Minister announced the other day that the EIB is going to provide funding for at least the first part of it. And that's going to be a phenomenal economic driver for the country, not just Western and Central Ukraine, but it will have economic impact in terms of getting goods faster, further forward to what's going to become a complete redevelopment of Eastern Ukraine. These massive post-Soviet monsters that we've seen being destroyed essentially over the course of the war are going to be very difficult to rebuild, even if you want to rebuild them. Azovstal represented 12% of Ukraine's export. I just don't see that happening again, and we're going to have to rethink the kind of economic planning that is going to go into redeveloping these areas. And that's my final point, is that when investors start to look at Ukraine, you got to look at the regions. And I think there will be a lot of funding that will become available to the countries that are stepping up now to say, we'll help redevelop Zaporizhia, we'll help redevelop Kherson, we'll help redevelop another area. And these kind of partnerships are going to become critical. But, and I'm very proud of the work Ukraine Invest is doing today. I think they're doing an excellent job under unbelievably difficult circumstances. But they can help guide companies into the regions, and those regions have undergone decentralization in the past 6 years. We worked very closely at Ukraine Invest with regional governors, but moreover with municipalities who now are able who have an incentive to attract investors in order to get the tax take. 60% of the taxes remain at the local level. So there's tons to play for. It's a massive country. It's the size of France, the size of Spain, and it's going to need everything. And I think that on the reconstruction side, we are going to see a substantial effort it's already starting at the government-to-government level, but private investment coming in behind IFIs and other state and quasi-state actors are going to play a major role in this redevelopment.
Absolutely, and it will only work hand in hand with development aid, government support, multilateral institutions, and of course private capital. I want to ask Anna, and this is maybe an opportunity to tell a little more about the Global Business for Ukraine initiative that EBA has launched. What do you think are the obligations in terms of even moral and diplomatic obligations that the international business community has towards Ukraine, and what support, what do you in practical terms need and want from them?
Indeed, actually, it seems to me all businesses, they are all people. And as Tatiana mentioned a few minutes ago, everybody was shocked to see on 24th of February such kind of action from Russian Federation. And from human point of view, people are just foreseeing, they are just monitoring how the situation evolves, and obviously they would like to contribute as much as they can. Businesses, they are pragmatic. They are people, but they are pragmatic, and they just have to calculate also their actions. And from human point of view, they support Ukraine, and they actually invest lots of money into humanitarian projects whatsoever. But let's be frank, their presence in the country needs to be also beneficial. And they need to calculate that it's possible to earn money there. And I thought actually when the war was starting, I thought, wow, everything is over, the business is going to flee away. But after 2 weeks, everything was understandable that everybody stays in the country. Moreover, since day one, telecommunication never stopped. IT businesses and IT service worked smoothly. When it comes to banking, everything works smoothly from day one. So it means that businesses actually redirected their efforts. They try to be agile. And they actually adjusted to the new normality, and even currently they make money. So that's why I think when it comes to the obligation of business, it's just obligation to sustain their staff as well, to pay taxes to the state budget in case they make business in Ukraine. And it seems to me the country has to offer something to this global business in terms of future investments. But here it's obviously lots of them, because the plan for reconstruction, at least which was presented by the government of Ukraine, says about $750 billion as the needs to reconstruct the country. And obviously even foreign stakeholders, they confirmed half, which is for sure needed and will be supplied to the country as the help. So it's just necessary to understand when the war is going to be over, when the peace is going to come to the country. If not peace, it's just necessary to understand how the country will be secure, so that the private investments would be really secure to make business there. And once we have this information in place, this clarity in place, then businesses would come more frequently, more massively to the country. Because I was just at the event of Ukrinvest, I was shocked to see that Kingspan plans to invest $200 million into the project in Western Ukraine. As well as just recently you got to know our member company, which is actually SpaceX in logistics, East-West logistics terminal in Western Ukraine, also invest 100 million euros from the war even. So you see that companies are investing already now. So it means they anticipate and expect that they would have actually substantial returns. And as I mentioned, returns would be in IT and telecommunication sector, there would be in agriculture if there would be nuclear, if there will be no nuclear war, there will be also construction, obviously lots of that, real estate and logistics. I think here is the area which really would deserve interest from private investments. And us as Global Business for Ukraine organization and European Business Association, we will be just able to actually to explain what's going on in the country. We are going to, to submit all necessary information and make necessary B2B matching so that new investors, which are not yet in Ukraine, would feel really comfortable by means of finding their stakeholders and partners in Ukraine.
Thank you. It's a great opportunity, and we look forward to more continued information about this initiative. We have around 4 or 5 minutes left, but I want to just ask first Yevgeny, then Daniel, then Tatiana. There's a fairly large international audience watching this broadcast, so including business people, but also government officials. Yevgeny, starting with you, and just briefly, what's your message to the international business community that may be watching?
Well, thank you very much, Courtney. I would just add to what previous speakers said, that Ukraine is open for investments, specifically in terms of the opportunities that rebuilding of Ukraine brings, future rebuilding of Ukraine once the war, which we hope comes to an end soon, actually ends. There is a set of investment incentives that Ukraine, of course, has to offer, and that we at Ukraine Invest, together with other government institutions, specifically the Ministry of Economy, are working to make these incentives more acceptable of investors, more attractive to them, and actually more accessible. This is one of our #1 priorities. There are investment projects which are currently being implemented, or at least prepared to be implemented when the better times come. And it is now the moment to consider what is there that may be interesting for a specific investor, what support may be needed in this regard, and what is the best time to come to real action. I will just add a few words that just as the war unfolded, Ukraine Invest started the campaign of reaching out to international businesses which have made a decision to stop their investment projects in the Russian Federation. At this point, we conduct negotiation with several companies in a way that how Ukraine can be interesting for these countries to relocate the potential of implementing the investment projects in Ukraine instead of the Russian Federation. And we do notice interest from these companies in this regard. So I thank you very much for this panel, and we are looking forward to working with investors which might be interested in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we've got 2 minutes left. So, Daniel, your 1 minute elevator pitch to the international business.
Very quickly. I don't want to talk about just Ukraine. I think investors need to look at this in a much wider context. Ukraine is at the center, it's at the epicenter of global changes taking place. It's Russia that has an unclear future. That's the biggest risk right now to investment, and that's globally. We've seen the knock-on effects in areas like agribusiness. Everybody woke up to the fact that Ukraine is the food basket of the world, and that we feed 450 million people. And I think that in terms of our Ukraine's position at the crossroads of global supply chains, if you're a major international agribusiness company and you're not in Ukraine, you're not a major international or global agribusiness company. We now live in a bipolar world, and that's emerging between democracies and autocracies. And we're not sure how all of that's going to affect global supply chains. So there are going to be an awful lot of changes. This is not going to be business as usual, and Ukraine is going to be at the center of those changes, both within Europe and and globally. And I think that needs to be the calculations in the boardrooms of businesses as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. I do apologize. I'm looking at the clock and we're run out of time. One final word or two. We've got about 30 seconds.
Yes. So my main message, as we have very few time to global business, would be to think about your social reputational responsibility these days, and do not do business with Russian Federation as long as they do this aggression against Ukraine. Reputation is very important today, and it stays this information forever, which business behaved, and if you want to ever do business in Ukraine, you should think about that today.
Thank you. A strong message for us to end on. Thank you very much for our panelists, both in person and the two gentlemen joining us remotely. We appreciate your time, and thank you for tuning in to watch this very important session.
Thank you so much. We hope to see you in the next BNEW with good news for Ukrainian. It's a really pleasure to listen the experts, and it's immediately future of Ukrainian. Bien, nosotros ahora hacemos una breve pausa de 5 minutos y seguiremos hablando de inversiones, y nos llega el panel más trendy, porque hablaremos de blockchain, criptomonedas, conceptos que están muy de moda, pero tenemos que conocer al detalle para no equivocarnos cuando hacemos nuestra inversión. Volvemos desde el D-Factory en esta Barcelona New Economy Week. Seguimos impulsando la nueva economía. Barcelona, capital mundial de esta nueva economía durante una semana.
Fabricamos talento. Fabricamos innovación. Y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía. Y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro.
Welcome to D-Factory, the factory that develops talent, technology, innovation, and of course in the heart of Barcelona. After all, D-Factory is consolidating Barcelona as a European capital of development for Industry 4.0, for digitalization, for transformation, creating 1,500 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect jobs in the city, close to the metro, the harbour and the airport. and promoted by the Consorci de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.